Hello and welcome back to another episode in my sketch challenge series. Today I'm creating a double page layout featuring the Floral Impressions DSP from Stampin Up. I did purchase the full suite on this one, and it comes with some gold accent tags, stamps and dies, an embossing folder, and strawberry slush and pretty pink gems. I will go into closer detail on how to use this stamp throughout the video. A quick heads up, for the month of June, Stampin Up is offering a buy one, get one 50% off promotion on all suite collections or any of the individual products within them. You don't have to buy the full suite to take advantage. Just keep in mind the discount applies to the lower priced item. I fell in love with the color palette in this collection, and especially the B-sides. I love pairing the softer, more subtle patterns with the bold, busy floral prints. Together they create beautiful, balanced layouts. Now, originally, I planned to create a single page layout using these two photos. There's a funny little story behind them that I'll share with you later in the process. Definitely worth documenting. But when I looked through the rest of my photos from that day, there weren't too many. We spent a lot of time walking around the resort, and most of the pictures reflect that. It was a relaxing kind of day, but we found this beautiful spot on the beach and ended up taking almost identical photos. You know, the one feet in the frame, ocean in the background. Since I didn't want to make a bunch of single page layouts for just one day, I picked my favorites and decided to highlight a few of them by printing them larger. So these are the supporting photos from that day. This photo, for example, was taken on one of our many walks around the resort. We came across this cactus growing right up the tree, and I just had to stop for a picture. When I looked at this leaf pattern paper, it immediately reminded me of that moment. I knew I wanted to use a large portion of it flanking both sides of the spread to really make a focal point. I also knew I had 7 photos to work with. So I flipped through my sketch binder and landed on this one. Hopefully you can see it clearly. This sketch has 6 photo spots, but there's room to tweak it. I'm turning one of the landscape photos into a portrait to fit my pictures better, and I'll also shift the journaling to a different area of the layout. The original sketch shows quite a few layers, 3 or 4 different papers or cardstock. I'm going to simplify mine just a bit and start with 3 main patterns, the floral and leaf pattern. And for the second, I'm using this tone-on-tone pool party circle print. It's subtle and pairs perfectly with the bold floral. Plus, it matches the soft blue tones in my pictures beautifully. For my third pattern, I wanted to bring in some texture. You'll notice a lot of straw elements in the photos, from the palapas we are walking under to the hats James and I are wearing. So I'm using a print from the Woven Textures DSP. And I love how this pattern adds that natural feel without introducing more color. It really pairs well with tropical or beach themed layouts. Now that I've chosen my 3 main pattern papers, let's start building the base for this layout. So off camera, I created a frame using old olive and white willow cardstock. I got the center of the old olive to save for future use, no sense wasting it, and trimmed the white cardstock down to 11.5 by 11.75. So the 2 sides meet in the middle and create a full 12 by 24 spread, just like it shows in the sketch. Now that the frame is done, I'll start laying out my photos to figure out the rest of the measurements. I swapped a 3 by 6 landscape to a 4 by 4 4x5 portrait, matching the pictures on the right side to the left. Mine are a bit smaller, closer to 3 3/4 by 4 3/4, even with the white border. I usually print a bit undersized, so double matting helps bring them back to the original sketch dimensions. Next to that, I've got 2 more 4x5 portraits, and you might have noticed I swapped the pictures of James and me just so he's facing into the layout. It's just a little design preference of mine. Apologies for the glare on that photo. I didn't catch that until later. Now for the pattern paper panels on each side. I'm using the floral print I had mentioned earlier, but just this section with the green leaves and the blue and purple tone flowers. Because of the leaf direction, I can't mirror it exactly, but that's totally fine. We'll adapt and cut from this part right here, easy peasy. So across the bottom, I've got 4 square photos printed 3x3, except for this one, which is 4x3. The sketch called for a 3x6 on the right, but I had an extra photo and there was plenty of room for it. So I'm happy with the photos are balanced. The blue tones form a bit of a visual triangle, which helps the eye move around the page. I'm placing the woven texture paper behind my focal photos, and the pool party pattern I'll cut 4 1/2-inch strips and trim them to size as we go. Now I've got everything trimmed down, so let's go through the measurements quickly. For the floral print, the left panel measures 5 1/4 by 11 1/2, and the right one is 4 1/2 by 11 1/2. With bold patterns like this, I find it looks best placed along the outer edges of the layout. The woven piece measures 7 by 6 1/4, though I'm tucking it behind the floral printed paper a bit, so not all of it will be visible. Then I have this smaller piece cut to 1 1/4 by 8, and since the photos will cover the center section, I trimmed this just to the size that will show. Now for the pool party pattern strips, they are each 1/2 inch by 12, and I'm placing the first 2 at the top, and now it's time to bring the photos back to check on sizing. So I like how this is coming together, but to help the photos pop a bit more, I'm matting them on black cardstock. I didn't use the tone-on-tone black this time because I didn't want the white core to show through. The main mat is 4 1/4 by 5 1/4, and for the double mat, it's 8 1/4 by 5 1/4. I wanted a good bit of that black to show around the edges. Just like in the sketch, I've got my photos placed right up against each other. I'm matting the smaller photos too. This black mat here is 6 1/4 by 3 1/4, and I can see here there's a bit of white space, which I'll cover later with a scrap from the pool party paper. On the right side, this strip of black cardstock is 3 1/4 inches tall, and I left it the full 12-inch width for now. I'll be adding a journaling box on top, and once it's in place, I'll trim down the excess. Lastly, I've got 2 more strips of the pool party paper going across the bottom. So if you've been following me for a while, you've probably noticed I like inking the edges of my paper layers. For this layout, I'm using black ink. I've done this for so long now that I can't not do it. It just feels unfinished otherwise. I'm making great progress on this Mexico trip album. James and I were in Playa del Carmen earlier this year, and with all the beautiful new collections Stampin' Up has released lately, I've been inspired to get more and more of these photos documented. We spent 10 amazing days in Mexico with a good balance of excursions and relaxing days soaking in the scenery. This layout documents one of our quieter days. Well, as relaxed as I ever get. I have a hard time sitting still for hours. Our mornings usually started with walking around the resort after breakfast, coffee in hand, checking out the tropical forests. We didn't stray from the designated paths. I'm not out there bushwhacking, through the tropical forests with snakes. The resort had beautiful trails that wind through the greenery, and we could explore for ages, always spotting something new. I am so excited to be using this stamp bundle called Notes and Totes. This stamp set itself might not look like much at first glance, though it does have some great sentiments, but the dies are the real showstopper here. You can create a 3D tote with all kinds of accessories. There are fence boards, sunglasses, water bottle, or little lotion bottles, everything you need to make a fun, stylish tote. So for now, I'm using the Relax and Enjoy stamp for my title. Titles don't always have to be big. Since we really did relax and enjoy this day, I felt like it was the perfect fit. I'm stamping it onto a gold foiled tag, which is a good size for this phrase. I also think that little pop of gold will help the title stand out nicely on this layout. I love mixing gold and pink, so this will make a fun accent. I'm using my Misty stamp positioner to help get the stamp nice and straight. I place the tag snugly into the corner and position the stamp as centered as I can without getting my head in the way of the camera. I'm stamping with fresh Freesia to tie in some subtle pinks in the towel here and the stripes in James's shorts. The Misty was actually a gift, and I really appreciate having it in my crafty space. Okay, so let's ink this up. We'll close my squeaky door. I really should oil that. And stamp. Looks pretty good. I'll add another layer of ink just to get a nice crisp impression. I'll ink it up, concentrating on the areas that needed just a little bit more ink. Much better, though not totally straight. Oh well, once it's on the layout and some embellishments are around it, no one will notice, right? Off camera, I typed and printed my journaling onto white cardstock. I cut it to a 3x3 to match the size of the photos and inked the edges before adhering it in place. Once that was committed, it determined the length I could trim the black cardstock. It's now 10.5 inches long. That set the length for the pool party strips on the right side too. So now on the left, I had tucked the straw pattern paper under the floral pattern above. So I'll repeat that layering with the pool party strips. I trimmed them slightly longer than the black mat and got them attached. I wasn't sure at first whether I wanted the strip on top of the black cardstock or tucked underneath, and that's why I tend to wait until later in the process before adhering everything down. I'm using my favorite scrapbook adhesive for this. It's permanent, but repositionable for a little while, which gives me some wiggle room. I'm placing the strips snug against the textured piece and the photo above it, and then I'll do the same for the bottom piece, tucking it under the black mat and the floral paper. I'm using my tweezer to help me line it up. It is a bit tricky when the whole layout wants to shift around on you. To fill in that little gap, I've just tucked another scrap in underneath all the other layers. There will be a seam, but with some strategically placed embellishments, no one will ever know. The hardest part is just getting it into position. I hope you're enjoying this sketch challenge I started this summer and that you'll keep following along. I love using sketches. They really spark my creativity, and even when I try to follow one closely, my finished layout usually ends up taking on a life of its own. There, that's in place now, a little bit more adhesive, and we're good. So now for the embellishments. I'm going back to the Notes and Totes dies to build a little beach bag. My actual beach bag is black, so I'm echoing that here. To add some interest, I'm including a little pocket and a handle with some cute little details out of Pool Party. Now, isn't this finished tote adorable? When you cut it out, the die includes flaps at the bottom and sides, so you can build an actual 3D version. But since I'm keeping it flat to this layout, I trimmed off the bottom tab and just folded the sides underneath. So now it lays nice and flat. I love that little pocket detail and the pop of teal. So there's a nice open area on the right side of the layout, so I think I'll place the tote there. In addition, I'm going to cut out a tote scarf, a bottle of sunscreen, a water bottle, and some sunnies, because those are all things I always have in my beach bag, along with all of James's stuff too. That's why I bought a black tote instead of pink or teal, so he'd be more likely to carry it without grumbling. Not that he wouldn't if it was pink, but this way there was less resistance. I grabbed some coordinating cardstock scraps in Pool Party, Fresh Freesia, and Misty Moonlight, and I'll run them through my machine. So I cut the scarf and sunnies from Fresh Freesia. I did the lenses in black. They're actually close in color to the real pair I own, though mine are not heart-shaped. The water bottle is teal, just like mine, and the sunscreen bottle I cut out of Misty Moonlight. I'll place these items here for now, but they may shift a little as the rest of the layout comes together. The die does cut out a little straw for the water bottle, but I decided to not include it. At least I think that's a straw. To create more embellishments, I'm using the Impressions of Bloom bundle that came with this collection. It's a two-step stamping set that creates beautiful flowers and leaves. I've already mounted the stamps, larger ones on their own blocks and smaller ones on both sides of a clear block, since I can see through it well enough to line things up. Having both pieces on one block works okay for me. Let's scoot the layout to the side and get stamping. I pulled out all the colors I want to use. Pretty in Pink, Strawberry Slush, Pool Party, Misty Moonlight, and Fresh Freesia. I'm mostly sticking with the Pool Party, Misty Moonlight, and Fresh Freesia, but it's nice to have some options. I'm stamping on white cardstock, starting with Fresh Freesia as for the base layer. I'm stamping off once onto scrap paper before stamping on the cardstock. This is called second generation stamping and will give me a lighter look. I like to start with the bottom layer. Some people go the other way, but this works best for me. Then for the second layer, I'll use full strength ink. The trick with this set is lining it up correctly. There's one petal that's larger than the others, and once that's in place, the rest falls into line. I'll hold the stamp in place for a few seconds, and voila! One of the nice things about this set is it still looks great even if you're not lined up perfectly. Now I'll repeat the same process with the Pool Party as the base and Misty Moonlight on top. This combination is so pretty. I'll create a few off camera along with the smaller flowers and use the coordinating dies to cut everything out. And if you're wondering what I'm using to clean my stamps, it's called a stamp chamois. I store mine in an empty stamp case. I just wet it before each use, and between uses, I let it air dry right in the case. It's not the most glamorous cleaning tool, but the chamois is a workhorse and way less messy than baby wipes or paper towels everywhere. Ask me how I know. I'm also bringing in the Happy Hibiscus bundle. I just love hibiscus flowers, and they were everywhere on this resort. This set works the same way in the two-step stamping. But one thing I did forget to show you earlier is the flower centers. I'm using Pecan Pie for that, and I'm just using the top detail layer. I want the centers to have a softer look, so I'm stamping off first before stamping onto the flower. I'm not concerned about getting them perfectly centered either. I like the organic look it gives. So here we are. Now I have a bunch of colorful flowers ready for this layout. I made a few with Berry Burst and Fresh Freesia as well, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. So I tried some of the strawberry slush and the pretty in pink too, but I think I'll save those for a future project. I'm happy with the core color palette I'm going with here, and I don't want to overwhelm the layout by introducing more colors. I cut a few tropical leaves with my Cricut too. I love this big leafy palm shape. I've been using these throughout my Mexico layouts, so I thought it would be fun to include them here as well. I also used the leaf dies from the Impressions of Bloom set and cut everything from Old Olive and green and garden green cardstock. Before I start arranging the flowers and leaves, I want to create a few grounding spots to anchor the clusters. The table next to me is an octagon shape, which gave me the idea to echo that with this gold tag. Maybe tuck it behind the tote? I don't love it there. Maybe over here? I'll set it back over here for now, and it'll probably get moved in the future. So continuing with the hexagon idea, I pulled out the meant to be dies. I keep these stored separately for easier access. You can buy the whole bundle with the stamps and dies for a discount, but today I'm just using the dies. These are unique because they cut the inner shape and the outer frame. I cut a few from the textured paper just for fun, and I love how they look. I'm only using the frames for this layout. I think layering them up will add visual interest and help anchor them to the title, especially against that bold background pattern. I'm keeping with the same colors, Pool Party, Fresh Freesia, and Misty Moonlight. I'm just moving things around now, testing placements until I find what works. Then I'll start layering in the flowers and leaves, some tucked behind, some in front, wrapping around the photos and the title. I cut this coconut using Cricut Design Space with the print then cut feature, and to repeat more of that gold on the layout, the tags feature the same detail as these dies, giving you both the inside and the outer gold frame to use. I'm going to stamp the word cheers onto the hexagon tag using the Cheers and Sips stamp set. And I spent a bit of time off camera adjusting the placement of my embellishments. And I'm happy with the layout for the most part. At least the cluster on the right side of the layout. And I thought I would show you how I attach everything without messing up the arrangement. Using the Barely Art Precision Craft Glue, I start with the bottom layers. I'll carefully pull out one hexagon at a time, adding just small dots of glue. You don't need much, and it dries quite quickly. Then I'll keep working my way through the hexagons, attaching one at a time, starting with the bottom, working my way up. And while I do that, let me tell you the funniest story behind this day. I had been wanting to try fresh coconut since the first day we arrived, but I could never quite figure out where to get one, or we were just never in the right spot at the right time. So after several days of vacation, the perfect opportunity finally presented itself. They had them at the poolside bar we ended up at that afternoon. And I was able to just charge it to the room. So James had a few sips of the yummy coconut water, but it was mostly me enjoying it. And within minutes of holding it, people started coming over asking where I had gotten it. It was funny to see several other people walking around shortly after with their own fancy coconuts in hand. What was even funnier, coconut is a natural laxative, which I had no idea about. So yeah, an unexpected bonus for all of us who jumped on the coconut craze that afternoon. For those little items, I'm attaching them to the layout in front of the tote with my tape runner. Then I'll go ahead and attach the tote and tuck it back in. This is looking great now. So I'll finish the other 2 clusters off camera. While I was working on the embellishment clusters, I decided the title needed to be black instead. So I re-stamped it, and I'll save the original one for a card or maybe a future layout. I also felt the coconut drink wasn't quite the right color and maybe a bit too small. So I swapped it out for this one, and I like it way better. I also cut a starfish and a shell from pecan pie cardstock to repeat that pecan color throughout the clusters. Those are from the Notes and Totes dies. Then I added a few gems in pretty and pink and some white ones too. So to me, the gems have more of a fuchsia tone, so I think they'll work nicely. So here's a close-up of that cluster. See, I think that coconut definitely fits better and is a nicer color in this cluster. And I love the cheers that's stamped on the white tag. And look at that tote. I absolutely love how it turned out with all the flowers around it. It's just, I feel like this layout is so much fun. Let's bring the sketch back in and compare it to the layout. I did forget to mention that this sketch was from the Creating Keepsakes magazine, and the sketch was designed by April Masdand. I feel like the overall look is still really similar. Just a few changes. I added an extra photo and moved my journaling down to create space for a cluster. And I eliminated a few extra paper layers that I felt didn't need to be on this layout. I adjusted the size and orientation of this one, but I kept the title in the same general spot. So I'm super happy with how it all came together. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I hope you enjoyed seeing this layout come together and maybe a little laugh at the coconut story too. If you liked this video, I'd love it if you gave it a thumbs up and subscribed so you don't miss what's coming up next. For still shots, head over to my Instagram, and here's a video I think you'll enjoy watching next. Happy crafting, and I'll see you in the next one.